Silva, Technical Marketing Manager with F5 here at Oracle OpenWorld in San Francisco. And we're over here at the F5 Idea Board. That's something I just came up with, by the way. And we're with Chris Akker. He's a Solution
Engineer on the Oracle Alliance.
Great. And so we were talking about, some of the conversations he's had over the last couple of days, and one that came up is an interesting solution for the RAC connection management. And I thought it might be something that you'd be interested in. So why don't you come on a little closer?
So a customer asked, what happens when I have a failure on one of my RAC nodes? It takes my application servers a fair amount of time to detect that there's a problem with one of those nodes. How can F5 help me make that failure identified, and can I move my application servers to other RAC nodes that are still up and running? So after talking to them a little bit, we decided, yes, this is something that the F5 can do. So,
and for our viewers who might not know what RAC is.
RAC stands for Real Application Cluster, and it's Oracle's premier database clustering and load balancing technology for database traffic. So we have an example here on the whiteboard of an application server that's connected to a 3-node RAC cluster. And what the customer is asking is, if I have a problem with a RAC node, it takes quite a while for that connection to time out. And meanwhile, the users that are using this application server, they see some timeouts and response time delay because they're still trying to use this RAC node that's not very healthy. And what he wants to do is switch those users over to the remaining RAC nodes as quickly as possible. So I said, well,
and in the meantime, right, he could ask his buddy in the cube next to him, are you having any problems with the application? And because he's coming here, he's like, oh, no, everything's fine, right?
Yeah, other users that are connected to the other nodes, they don't see a problem. So it's a little difficult to troubleshoot because it's only affecting a portion of the users. So we said, yes, this is something F5 can do. So what we do is we insert an F5 device between the application server and the RAC node, and we now use a virtual IP that the application server connects to, and the individual RAC nodes are now load balanced and connected through the F5. And what that means is, when there is a problem or a condition with this one node, the connections are going to time out much faster, but to the database server itself. Meanwhile, the application server has still got a connection that's healthy to the F5, and the application server doesn't know that there's been a failure in one of the nodes in the RAC cluster, because the F5 can send traffic to the 2 or 3 or however many other RAC nodes that you have. That's also important because if you do need to take this RAC node offline to do some maintenance or repair or figure out what the issue is, you can take it offline and work on it and still not have to change any settings or configuration on the application servers to let it know that there's been a failure in one of the nodes in the RAC cluster.
Now can you set up like different profiles for the top and the bottom?
Yes, that's one of the beauties of the big IP device, is it's actually a full proxy TCP device, and what that means is that you can configure TCP parameters differently for the application side of the network versus the RAC cluster side of the network. So what you would do is you would set a long timeout value for the application server so that it stays connected for long periods of time, but you would set a short timeout value for TCP connections to the RAC nodes so that the traffic can be load balanced evenly across those nodes.
That's pretty neat.
That's really cool.
Excellent. Hey, thanks, Chris.
Sure.
So there you have it. Big IP and RAC connection management right here at the F5 Idea Board at Oracle OpenWorld. And so for Chris, and again my wonderful camera guy, Jonathan, this is Peter Silva for F5 Networks. Thanks.